everybody, my name is John Capobianco, and I've been working on my open source project, my latest iteration of my open source project called Merlin Unchained, because it's a Django-based project. Now, I recommend you watch the other videos because they're sort of sequential and leading up to this one, where we looked at models, and how to make models and get models into databases in the MySQLite. The views, presentation layer, and how we can make dynamic HTML views into those models. And then the controller. Well, this video is going to focus on the controller. Now, to this point, we have the Django Merlin server running. We can turn that on, and then we can run pyATS outside of it to populate the database. And I want it to be automated. I don't want human interaction. I want this to just run my pyATS job periodically, let's say, as a scheduled task is another way to look at it. Now I could do this. And I've done this. That was sort of what drove me into Kubernetes, because I was under this impression that I needed to make a full container with pyATS in it and then run the container periodically through something like Kubernetes. But I'm going to show you that it's even easier than that with Django and a particular add-on to Django called Celery. Now, let me start with the genesis of this, what inspired me, one, and then two, the article I followed to implement this periodic job. So let's make sure I'm sharing the screen, and I'm going to chat this time. So I recommend, this is where I started, was this wonderful blog series and YouTube videos and demonstration of a web-based network device monitoring tool called Johan by Florian Pechinger. I don't want to get that wrong. But Florian's inside of the Merlin chat room. He's been very open and helpful. And I asked him a question today after I followed all of this. Now let me show you, this is what led me to the Django. But down here is sort of, he has Redis and Celery, these two internal components of part of his solution here. And he talks a lot about Celery. Now this is sort of what caught my attention. Right here, it sort of says check every 2 seconds the task's status. So I asked Florian, I said, would I be able to use Celery and Redis to kick off my pyATS job periodically? And he said, yes, you could. And then he thought that was a good idea and encouraged me to pursue it. And I did pursue it. So in the pursuit of that, I found this article from Nick McCullum, software developer and professional explainer. I don't know Nick. I have sent Nick a tweet saying that I followed this article. But we're going to quickly look at the article. And I'm not trying to steal his work. I'm saying I use this, and I'll show you how I used it to implement it with Merlin. So there's a couple things to install. You need your Django, obviously. You need Celery. And then you follow these steps to install Redis. Now Redis is sort of like a broker between Celery and Django. And you follow all these steps and you can make sure that your Redis server is pingable and you'll get a pong back. And then finally we pip install the Redis pip package. Okay, so now from here down, I already had my Merlin Django project. So they have this celery.py file. Okay, so let's look at my repo. So we make this new celery.py file, and we need OS and Celery from Celery. We set up our environment variable and point it to our Merlin settings file from the Django settings. And we plug in the name of our app here, Merlin. Now, I'm going to come back to this. This is later. But everything up here is from this article. And we want to auto-discover our tasks, meaning load the task modules from all registered Django apps. Okay, very important line of config there. So then we have to initialize it. So in our init, we add a couple lines. Now what's important is this from future has to be the first line. It can't come after the import. And then we bring Celery app, right? That app in as a Celery app. Okay, and then there's some settings that we need to set up in our settings py file. So we already have the settings file, and I scrolled all the way to the bottom here and added this Celery broker Redis information, and I changed the time zone to Eastern time. Okay, now let's go down further here, and this is how we make our tasks. So I already had Merlin as an installed app, and I didn't use their example tasks. My task is to run the job, the pyATS job. So if we look at tasks, I have a shared task called run pyATS job, which just calls the operating system and runs that pyATS job, just like I would at the CLI. And this all works if you test it. So now that I had the Celery worker to test it and I knew that it worked, it was a matter of scheduling it as a periodic task using what's known as Celery Beat. Okay, so Celery Beat, here we set up our scheduler inside of celery.py. So that's this second half here, where I have app config beat scheduler. The scheduler name is run pyATS job every 5 minutes. The task is that job, and I run it every 5 minutes. And then they show you how to turn it on and kill any existing workers. So I've put this in the README file so I don't lose it. So let's go ahead and turn it on. And you already see some logs here, but I'm just going to turn it on. Let me actually delete these. Well, you can see there that it runs and that it works. But let's just delete these and run those commands, and we'll do this fresh together. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Haha. I need to do some things first. So let me set up my virtual environment. And let's go into Merlin Unchained. Into Merlin. Hey, not to pull the rug out from the demo, I missed 2 little steps that are important, one more important than the other. One being a critical step and the other being kind of a cosmetic thing. And I also didn't have my VPN tunnel up. I didn't even have a sandbox open and ready for this demo. I was so excited to show this. I forgot to get the VPN up. So the VPN's up now, and I'm ready to continue. So let's take a look. Now, what I mentioned about important, we have to make sure that our Redis server is up, and we can ping it with the CLI, and if we get a pong, it's up. It wasn't up when I was about to start the video before. The other thing is, I'm going to do this and make sure that my, here we are here, my settings are exported. And then the last thing was cosmetic. I've already run it, but I'm just going to show you. Towards the bottom of the document, they mentioned that the, right here, no, not here, past the periodic tasks, the scheduler's time series needs to be set up and adjusted before you start. So I noticed that the time was off. So right here, reset the database scheduler, because I have the time zone difference in my settings. So I just ran this code, and I believe that will normalize the time series. So that's all it for the article, an amazing article. Now let's go ahead and run our code. And I'm going to flush these logs. We're pretty sure it's going to work, but I'm just going to delete them, and we'll start with a fresh set of logs and a fresh scheduler, which I'm going to copy from the README file. So we're going to, let's make sure nothing is running, and we'll kill. So let's run our kill command. And then let's go ahead and run our commands here to get our beat working and our worker working. Now these are going to take 5 minutes, but the VPN tunnel is up, I believe now. And I will just come back to you to show you the results. Now actually here, before I do that, Let's again take a look at the timestamp. It's got our server running. And we'll take a look at the last timestamp, run server, and let's just use learn VLAN 2021. Now the last timestamp, well, you can see right there, 12:47. Now ignore those times. That's when the see how it's off by the timestamp. So I'll just flush this record in the admin panel. But we should see something come in for, 9:03 p.m. or something like that. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at the time settings because they're all sort of off. But that's not the important thing right now. The important thing is that we have this beat running in the background that's going to fully automate the pyATS. All of it. It's going to take care of so much of our work here. It's going to run the pyATS job, and then we know how much of the pyATS is doing the heavy lifting. The connection to our switches, the running of the commands, the parsing of the commands, the feeding of the information into the SQL database. And then the views are just dynamic, and we just refresh the data and see the new data coming in. This is like having an operator on every device running the show commands, 50 of them when I'm done, every 5 minutes, and giving you back HTML pages, JSON, CSV files, all that wicked stuff. So I'll come back in 5 minutes and I'll show you this beat running. Okay, stick around. All right, let's take a look. I'm back. The scheduler is telling me here, right, that the scheduler is sending the due task. All right, and then I look at my log and the task succeeded in 18, is that 18 seconds? It's remarkable. So that we'll come back to the speed, but now let's take a look. If I refresh the screen here, there are my new date and timestamps. Now the time's off. I don't care. Who cares? It's the fact that it's just kicked off and running. Hands-free automation. Like, what good is it to automate 2/3 of something where you say, well, I still need a human being to log in and run the command, right? It's not. This is automation. I start it and it's like cold fusion. It just runs and self-perpetuates. I feel like Dr. Octopus here. I really do. It's just amazing to me. So now I just start adding in more and more commands. Like I started with 3, but in 18 seconds, so 6 seconds a command. Think about that. In that HTML page, it's with all these different views and it's in a database and magic. It is magic. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that on Celery. Look into Johan and Florian's amazing blog series and video and try the tool yourself. It's much more advanced and mature than where I'm at with Merlin, but I'm getting there. And make sure you reference the blog post that I was looking at earlier. That was a really good article, and you just follow those steps, and you now have a periodic beat running as a task. Just incredible. One thing I'll leave you with, in that article, they also show you, is my server still up and running? Yeah, so let's look at the admin panel real quick. I just want to show you, and I'll leave you with this. If we go into our admin panel and log in, window here called periodic tasks. Now periodic tasks, I can set up periodic tasks by clicking add. And look at this. This is really neat. The registered task is right here, run pyATS job. So I could give this a name. I could give it a description. I could start and date time. And then it would tell me the last time it ran. I could run it as a one-off task. Pretty neat, right? In the GUI. So, thank you for watching this. The community has really been lit up by this work, and I can sort of understand why. The idea of pyATS as a web service. Like, I'm not doing this through PuTTY or anything. It just runs as this web service. So if you're interested, again, connect with me, John_Capobianco on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, automateyournetwork.ca or github.com/automateyournetwork. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to get engaged with you. And stay safe. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed these series of videos. Much more to come. Bye now.